Chapter 9. The Blind Fool. Anttias understood eventually what his grandfather had said. She was here, still here, had always been here. He just didn't recognize her. That realization hit him 3 days after the disastrous conversation in the king's study. He'd been lying awake, replaying every word, and suddenly it clicked. You're a blind fool who wouldn't recognize her if she was standing right in front of you. Not wouldn't find her, wouldn't recognize her. She was here, in the castle, somewhere. He just had to find her, recognize her. So he looked, searched every corridor, every garden, every common room and servants' hall and hidden corner of the castle he could access. Studied every face, every woman who might be the right age, the right build, the right... Nothing. Nobody. She was a ghost after all. Except his grandfather had said that her leaving had been a lie he had been asked to tell. The old man had not lied. He had quoted her, told him without actually saying it that he could still find her. Which meant Anttias was missing something. Something obvious. He kept looking. The jester's performances changed. The praise stopped. The declarations of love, the ridiculous, embarrassing pronouncements that had made the court laugh all summer. Now the humour was dark. Look at him, the jester announced one evening, cartwheeling through the great hall. Our tragic knight, pining, suffering, very dramatic. The court laughed nervously. The tone was wrong. Off. He lost something precious, the jester continued, bells chiming with each movement. Fumbled it in the dark, broke it. And now he searches and searches but cannot find the pieces. Anttias didn't laugh, just watched. Something about the jester's voice felt sharper than usual. Cutting. Maybe, the jester said, stopping directly in front of him. He should stop looking. Go home. Except that some things, once broken, cannot be fixed. No, Anttias said quietly. The painted face tilted, half smile, half frown. No, I'm not giving up. The jester stared at him for a long moment, then cartwheeled away. The next week was worse. He haunts the castle like a ghost, the jester declared, hanging from a chandelier. Searching for something he'll never find because he's too stupid to see what's right in front of him. Laughter. Uncomfortable. The courtiers didn't know where to look. Anttias just stood there, taking it. Because the jester was right. He was stupid, blind, missing something. Perhaps, the jester said, dropping from the chandelier in a cascade of bells, he enjoys suffering. Some people do. Makes them feel important. I don't enjoy it, Anttias said. Then leave. Go back to your lakes. Forget about ghosts and guilt and women who don't want to be found. I can't. Why not? Because I love her. The jester went very still. The bells stopped chiming. Tragic, pointless, very princely. He quipped, but there was something in his voice that sounded almost angry. It continued like that for weeks. The jester mocking him, Anttias enduring it. A strange war neither of them seemed capable of ending. Go home, the performances said. Give up. Stop looking. No, Anttias's presence answered. I'm staying. I'll find her. The court watched, fascinated and uncomfortable. The king watched with something like exasperation, and the jester's humour grew darker, crueler. Anttias should have noticed, should have wondered why the performances felt personal, why the mockery cut so precisely. He didn't. He was too wrapped up in his own misery, too busy searching faces and trying to find a woman who'd disappeared like smoke, too blind to see. 10 weeks after the harvest festival, the jester collapsed. Not dramatically, not in performance, just stumbled. They were in the great hall. Afternoon. Anttias had been discussing something with Lord Marshal, supplies for the winter probably, he couldn't remember, when the jester had appeared. Our tragic knight, the usual announcement, but the voice was thinner, strained. Anttias had looked up, seen the jester sway slightly. Still searching, still hoping, still. The jester's eyes rolled back. Bells chimed once, then silence as the painted figure crumpled. Anttias moved without thinking, caught the jester before he hit the floor. The weight was slight, almost nothing. Had the boy always been this thin? He adjusted his grip, cradled the unconscious jester against his chest, and for the first time ever actually looked at the jester. The painted face was close, too close to ignore. Half smile, half frown. But beneath the paint, delicate features, fine-boned, the kind of face that could be young or old, depending on the light, or male or female, depending on who was looking. Anttias stared. The jester stirred. Eyes fluttered open, bright, sharp eyes that he'd seen somewhere before, and focused on him. They were very close, close enough that Anttias could see past the paint to the person underneath, close enough to notice things. The curve of a jaw, the way the mouth was shaped. The jester scrambled out of his arms, bells jangling, face turned away. "Apologies," came the high, clear voice. "Too many cartwheels. Not enough breakfast." And bolted. Actually ran from the hall like someone was chasing him. Anttias sat on the floor where he'd been kneeling, arms still shaped around someone who was no longer there, and frowned. There had been something. Just then, when they'd been close enough to ignore the costume, the paint, the performance, something familiar. He stood slowly. The next day, the jester didn't appear. Or the day after that. "Where is he?" Anttias asked the king one afternoon a week later. "Who?" "The jester. He hasn't performed in days. I'm missing my daily abuse." "He's ill," Torvin said, not looking up from his correspondence. "Nothing serious, just needs rest." Anttias left, but he couldn't stop thinking about it. About the moment in the hall, the jester's weight in his arms, the face beneath the paint, the eyes. He'd seen those eyes before. Bright, sharp, clever. Where? Anttias lay awake that evening, replaying the moment, over and over. The way the jester had felt, light, almost fragile, the way the voice had sounded. High and clear, yes, but... The shape of the face, the hands. He'd held those hands before. Small, deft, quick. Where? And then, slowly, pieces started connecting. The jester's dark humour over the past weeks, the cruel observations about searching for something he'd never find, the way the performances had felt personal, targeted, the way the jester always seemed to be near him, watching, commenting, the timing. The jester had started the dark mockery right after the Harvest Festival, right after Yvonne had disappeared. As if he knew, as if he... No. Anttias sat up in bed, replayed the memory again. The jester in his arms, the paint, the costume, the bells. Underneath all of it, delicate features, sharp eyes, small hands, brown hair hidden under the ridiculous hat. Anttias's heart started pounding. You're a blind fool who wouldn't recognize her if she was standing right in front of you. Right in front of him, for months, years. The jester, always there, always watching, always... Gods, Anttias whispered to the empty room. The voice, when the jester had mocked him at the Harvest Festival, declared that he fought for love. The way the figure moved, fluid, graceful, like water, like someone who knew exactly how to fight, how to put a man on his back in 3 moves. The hands. He'd felt them that night in the tavern, small, clever. The same hands that had fed him cheese and poured his wine. The same hands he'd caught when the jester collapsed. The eyes, bright and sharp and so familiar because he'd looked into them in a dozen different lights and never looked properly at the jester, never actually saw. Anttias stood, paced, tried to breathe through the realization crashing over him. The jester was Yvonne, had been Yvonne. All this time, since... when? Since the beginning? Since before the beginning? How long had she been the king's jester? 10 years, someone had said once. Maybe more. 10 years of performing, of being background noise, of being invisible in plain sight. And he'd never... I'm an idiot, he said aloud. A complete, absolute idiot. He thought about every interaction, every moment. The jester appearing wherever he went, making declarations of love that everyone laughed at, telling him the truth in ways nobody believed. His words to the king. She'd been there, on the windowsill, listening, right there, and Anttias had never looked, not once. Gods! He sat down hard. She was right. I am blind. But now he knew. The question was, what did he do about it? Find her. Obviously, talk to her. Tell her. Tell her what? That he'd finally figured it out after months of her practically screaming it at him. That he was sorry for being too stupid to see. That he loved her. He did. He loved her. Yvonne. Lady Yvonne. The jester. The woman in the practice yard. The girl in the borrowed dresses. All of her. And he'd been too blind to see they were the same person. Anttias stood, decisive now. He needed to find her, find the jester's room, talk to her, make her listen, make her understand that he knew, finally knew, and he wasn't going to let her disappear again. He left his chambers, walked through the dark castle corridors toward the east wing. Someone would know where the jester lived. Servants always knew. And he was going to find out. One way or another, this ended tonight. Chapter 10. The Price. King Torvin had survived 5 pregnancies, watched his wife carry 4 children to term and lose 1. He knew the signs. The way Yvonne had gone pale at the smell of roasted meat 3 days ago. The way she'd excused herself abruptly from his study twice in one afternoon. The fainting spell. The fact that it had been exactly 10 weeks since the Harvest Festival. He wasn't surprised, just troubled. The child she carried was his blood, his grandson's, and he had no idea how to make this right. But first things first, he went to the kitchens, requisitioned the ginger tea, expensive, imported, cost a small fortune, but his wife had sworn by it. He'd ordered it kept in stock after she'd died because the smell reminded him of her. Grabbed a bucket from the scullery, and went to find Yvonne. Her room was small, tucked in the east wing with the other entertainers and minor court functionaries. He'd given her better quarters once. She'd refused them, said she preferred small spaces, easier to defend. He knocked, no answer. Knocked again. Go away. Her voice was muffled, miserable. It's me. Pause. Then, still go away. I brought tea and a clean bucket. Longer pause. Come in. He opened the door. She was in bed, curled on her side, looking thoroughly wretched. The jester's costume hung on the wall. Motley jacket, ridiculous hat, bells silent. A dinner tray sat on the table beside the bed, half eaten. Or half not eaten, more accurately. Most of the food was still there, congealing. Torvin set the bucket on the floor beside the bed, held up the tea. Your choice. Bucket or tea? She looked at both, reached for the bucket, hugged it. Smart girl. He pulled the chair closer, sat down with the kind of careful movements that came with age and joints that complained about stairs. You figured out what's wrong with you? He asked casually. She shook her head, face still buried in the bucket. No idea at all. Food poisoning, plague, divine punishment. None of those. She looked up, pale, miserable. Then what? He met her eyes. You're pregnant. For a moment she just stared at him. Crap. She did not stop there. The swearing was thorough, creative. She went through several languages, including 2 he didn't know she spoke. Then she puked. Torvin waited patiently. When she was done, he offered the tea. Drink. It helps. She took it with shaking hands, sipped, made a face. It tastes like... I know, drink it anyway. She drank. They sat in silence for a moment. How long have you known? She asked finally. Suspected for a week. Confirmed it just now when you picked the bucket. I'm an idiot. You were raised to be a eunuch. I'm not surprised you're a bit oblivious about these matters. She laughed. It came out bitter. This time the joke's on me. Seems that way. Another silence. Yvonne drank more tea. Torvin waited. What am I supposed to do? She asked quietly. That depends on several things. What you want, what he wants, what can be arranged. He doesn't want me. He wants Lady Yvonne, the ghost in borrowed dresses. He wants you. He's just too stupid to know it yet. The door burst open. Anttias stood in the doorway, breathing hard like he'd been running. His eyes swept the room. The jester's costume on the wall. Yvonne in the bed, clutching a bucket. The king sitting calmly in a chair. His face went through several expressions. Shock, recognition, understanding. You, he said to Yvonne. Me. She raised the bucket slightly. Surprise. He stared at the bucket, at the tea in her other hand. Torvin watched him process it, saw the exact moment recognition hit. Ginger tea, bucket, pale face, the smell of ginger and puke, the same smell from 15 years ago, from his mother's room in the months before she died. Anttias went white. No, I didn't. I couldn't have. You did, Yvonne said flatly. You could. You have. Congratulations. The jester was bleeding through in her bitter joke. I'm so sorry. Gods, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean. I never wanted. He backed toward the door, shaking, breaking, and ran, actually fled. Down the corridor, footsteps fading, Yvonne looked at the empty doorway. Coward. He'll be back, Torvin said calmly, when he's finished panicking. Will he? Yes, and I'll handle him when he does. Torvin leaned back. But first, do you want him? She looked at the bucket, at the tea, at her hands. Does it matter? Yes, because if you want him, I'll make it happen. But I will not make it easy for him. The boy needs to prove he wants you, needs to work for it. Work for it how? Torvin smiled, thin, sharp. I bought you. I am not just giving you away. He tapped the armrest. I'll make him buy you, if he can meet my price. What price? 100 gold pieces. Yvonne's head snapped up. That's twice what I paid for you. Fair, I think. You are worth more now. 2 in 1 deal, too. He doesn't have that kind of money. I know. He might be able to borrow against his estate, but not the full sum. And I won't let him sell it. I'm not letting you go to a homeless man. Torvin leaned forward. He'll need to be clever. Sell what he does not need. Humble enough to ask for help and smart enough to earn it. You want to make him suffer. I want to make him prove he wants you more than his pride, more than his fear, more than his guilt, more than his little luxuries. Torvin's voice went soft. You deserve someone who'll fight for you, who'll work for you, who'll see you, really see you, not just when you're convenient or beautiful or easy to love. Yvonne stared at him, then back at the tea. What if he can't do it? Then he wasn't good enough for you anyway. And we will find a better way to make this right for the world. My daughter in High Pass could take you in and tell whatever story needs to be told. She owes me for eloping with that southern prince. She laughed, still bitter, but less so. You're a ruthless old bastard. I'm a king. It comes with the job. He stood, joints creaking. Drink the tea, rest. Think about whether you actually want him. Because if you do, if you really do, I'll make him work for it. But I need to know you want the prize at the end. Yvonne was quiet for a long moment, then quietly, I do. Good. Torvin headed for the door, paused. He'll try to come back tonight, or tomorrow morning. I'm putting a guard on your door. When he shows up, they'll send him to me. Why? Because you need rest. And he needs to learn that wanting something doesn't mean getting it immediately. Torvin smiled. Patience, girl. Let me handle the foolish knight. You focus on feeling better. That's my blood too you are carrying." He left before she could respond, posted a guard at her door with simple instructions. "Let nobody in. If Sir Anttias appears, send him to my study. Politely, but firmly." Then went to his chambers to plan exactly how he was going to make his grandson work for the prize he'd been too blind to see. 100 gold pieces. The boy would scramble, panic, and in the process he'd learn humility, persistence, the value of what he was trying to win. Or he'd fail and prove he wasn't worthy. Either way, Torvin would have his answer. He went to bed satisfied. Tomorrow would be very interesting. Chapter 11. The Haunting. Anttias spent the night haunting the castle, not sleeping, not resting, just walking. Through corridors he'd known since childhood, past rooms where people slept peacefully, unaware that his world had just shattered and reassembled into something he didn't recognize. He'd killed her. No. Not yet. But he would. That's what happened. That's what always happened. His mother, his brother, now Yvonne. Except... He stopped walking, leaned against a cold stone wall in an empty corridor. Except she wasn't dead yet. And maybe, she wouldn't be. Maybe she'd be fine. Women survived childbirth, many did, most did, just not his mother. But Yvonne was young, strong, she could fight. Gods, she could fight. She'd put him on his back in 3 moves. She could survive this. She had to, because he loved her. All of her. The ghost in borrowed dresses, the sharp-tongued guard in the practice yard, the woman who'd sat in his lap and fed him cheese and kissed him like he was precious. The jester. Gods. The jester. He'd looked right past her for months, years. She'd been there, right there, telling him the truth in ways nobody believed, making declarations of love that everyone laughed at. Including him? He'd laughed, while she'd been loving him, watching him, waiting for him to see. And he'd been too blind, too stupid, too focused on a fantasy to see the real person in front of him. Anttias pushed away from the wall, started walking again. A servant rounded the corner, saw him, yelped. "Your Grace, I didn't... It's very late." "Sorry." Anttias moved past, kept walking. He passed 3 more servants, startled all of them, stopped apologizing after the second one. He couldn't sleep, couldn't rest. His mind was at war with itself. What he wanted was Yvonne, alive, safe, his. What he feared was also Yvonne, dead, because of him, because he'd lost control for one night and forgotten to be careful. What he knew was that the fear had already come half true. She was pregnant. The thing he'd spent years avoiding had happened, and he couldn't take it back. Didn't want to take it back. That was the worst part, the most shameful part. Even knowing the danger, even terrified of losing her, he couldn't regret that night, couldn't wish it undone. He wanted to be a decent husband. If he was very, very lucky, if she survived, a decent father. He wanted her. But what he wanted might not matter. His grandfather was protective, rightfully so. If Yvonne didn't want him, if she couldn't forgive his blindness, his cowardice, the king wouldn't force her. And Anttias wouldn't ask him to. He loved her too much to trap her. But gods, he wanted to try, to talk to her, explain, apologize, beg if he had to. He changed direction, headed for the east wing, for her room. The guard at her door straightened when he saw Anttias approaching. "I need to speak with her." "I'm sorry, sir, the king's orders. If you come here, I'm to send you to his study." "I just need..." "His study, sir." Politely, but firmly. The guard looked genuinely apologetic. "Those were my instructions." Anttias stared at the closed door, at the guard, at the barrier between him and the conversation he desperately needed to have. "Fine," he said quietly. "Thank you." He went to the king's study. It was empty, dark. The fire burned down to embers. Anttias sat down in the chair facing the desk. and waited. Dawn came slowly, grey light filtering through the windows. The castle was waking around him. Anttias didn't move. He sat like a condemned man waiting for judgment. In a way, he was. The king would decide whether Anttias could see her, talk to her, try to make this right, whether he deserved a chance at all. Anttias wasn't sure he did, but he was going to ask anyway. The door opened around mid-morning. The king entered, saw Anttias, didn't look surprised. You waited? Yes. All night? Yes. Torvin closed the door, moved to his desk, sat down with the careful movements of age, studied Anttias. You look terrible. I feel terrible. Good. You should. The king leaned back. I spoke with her last night, after you ran. Anttias flinched. I needed time to. You ran. Like a coward. She called you that. She was right. I know. Do you? Yes. Anttias met his grandfather's eyes. I panicked. I saw the bucket and smelled the ginger, and all I could think about was my mother, about losing her, about being responsible for. His voice cracked. But I'm not running now. I'm here, and I'm not leaving until you tell me what I need to do to make this right. The king was quiet for a long moment. She still wants you. Anttias's heart stopped. She. What? I asked her, last night, whether she wanted you. She said yes. Hope crashed into Anttias like a physical blow. Then I need to see her. No, but I'm not giving her to you for free. Anttias blinked. What? I bought her, the king said calmly, 10 years ago, from a travelling troupe, 50 gold pieces. Anttias stared. 50 gold that was serious money. A small tavern, a decent farm, 3 years of comfortable travel. She was 14, Torvin continued, already skilled, acrobatics, performance, languages, worth every copper I paid. His voice was flat, matter of fact. I bought her, raised her, trained her further. She's been mine for a decade, and I'm not handing her over just because you finally figured out she exists. What are you saying? I'm saying if you want her, you'll buy her. Properly. 100 gold pieces. Anttias's mind went blank. 100? Twice what I paid. Fair, considering she's considerably more valuable now than she was at 14, and you'll be getting a 2 for one deal anyway. I don't have that kind of money. I know. You might be able to borrow. Torvin leaned forward. And I won't let you sell the estate for it. I'm not giving her to a homeless man. She needs security, stability, a home. Hope and despair crashed together in Anttias's chest. She wanted him. That meant he had a chance. But 100 gold pieces. That was a fortune. A small fortune. But still. He had maybe 20 in liquid assets. How was he supposed to? How long? He asked, voice steady, barely. Until Yule. 2 weeks. 2 weeks to find 100 gold pieces. And if I can't? The king's expression didn't change. Then I'll make alternate arrangements. She'll start showing soon. I won't have her shamed. She'll need a husband. If you can't be that husband, I'll find someone who can. The words hit like a blade between the ribs. Alternate arrangements. A husband, someone else. Not him. Anttias felt panic claw at his throat, fought it down. 2 weeks, he had 2 weeks. He could do this, had to do this. I understand, he said, voice steady, controlled. Do you? Yes, 100 gold pieces. By Yule, I'll have it. Will you? Yes. The king studied him. You're dismissed. Anttias stood, walked to the door, opened it, paused. Wanted to run, wanted to bolt down the corridor and start immediately. Every second mattered. 2 weeks wasn't long enough, but he made himself close the door properly, carefully. Then he ran. Inside the study, Torvin listened to the footsteps fade, smiled slightly. The boy had wanted to run. The panic had been written all over his face, the desperate need to start immediately, to move, to do something. But he'd waited until the door was closed. Controlled himself long enough to show respect, composure, maturity. Growing up fast, Torven murmured to the empty room. He picked up his pen, returned to correspondence. 2 weeks. The boy would scramble, scheme, probably humiliate himself multiple times trying to gather that much money. Good. Yvonne deserved someone who'd work for her, fight for her, prove she was worth more than pride or fear or anything else. And if Anttias couldn't do it, well, Torven would find another solution. But he suspected the boy would manage. Somehow, the desperate ones usually did. And he had seen to it that Anttias was properly desperate.